We're going to be going over the different aspects of the good news, what many people call the gospel. I think it's very important for us to understand and meditate on what got us here, the understanding that brought us to a mature relationship. And those who have not heard the gospel yet, the good news, will be able to recognize what they need to understand and what they need to receive in order to be born again or have a new life. And those of you who have been doing this for a while but have never heard this, I hope that this helps allow us to see things a little bit more scripturally, to be able to mature a little bit more in our walk with Yah. So before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that this ministry has been a blessing to you guys. Please consider to donate and bless us in our efforts. You can support the ministry at 4alc.com. You can also bless us on Cash App, which is a $4ALCBLESS, bless. So everything definitely helps. Every way that you support, your prayers, your donations, and your sharing, and your subscribing to this video and to all of our videos, and mostly sharing it so that way other people can actually get a chance to hear the content. So with that being said, we're going to go into our what does it mean, how to be born again. There's so many different ways to express this truth, in so many different angles. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to first dive in and go into the aspect of this in regards to what's the first thing you're supposed to understand in receiving the good news, the bad news. So this class is going to be focusing on the bad news. Why are we going to focus on the bad news? Because why would there be how can there be a full acknowledgement of the good news if you don't believe that there's no bad news, or you don't really know what the bad news is? So we're going to look at what the bad news is. So how did Yah, when we're looking at our relationship with Yah, we're looking at, or if people was trying to figure out whether they should have a relationship with Yah, with the Most High. How did Yah make man? What did he make man? How did he make man? So let's look at a few verses. We're going to start at Luke real quick and then hop back to Genesis. Let's go to Luke chapter 3, go all the way to the last verse 38. And it talks about Adam's two sons. Look at what it says, which was Enos. He had another son named Seth. And then it says, which was the son of Adam. And then it says, Adam was the son of Elohim. Adam was the son of Elohim. So he was created, his son. He was created like his counterpart. Let's go back and see what happened. I think many people heard this story. So we're going to look at some preliminaries real quick just to see where this takes us. So we see that Yah made man in his image, in his likeness, and it was his son. So what did Adam do? What did Adam do? Let's go to Genesis chapter 3. Let's look at this real quick. Genesis chapter 3, we know that the serpent beguiled the woman, and that because the serpent beguiled the woman ate the fruit that they were commanded not to eat according to their covenant. And not only did the woman eat it, but the woman spoke to the man, gave it to him, and he ate it also. So because of this, there was a transforming of nature. Something happened, right? So let's start here. Let's start when he walks into the garden in verse 10. Genesis chapter 3, starting in verse 10. And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And the voice, or Yah, said, who told you you was naked? Have you eaten of the tree that I commanded you not to eat from? And the man said, the woman that you gave me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And YAHUAH said to the woman, what did you do? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. So now, Look at look at this is what's changing the course of nature. And we're going to look at everything that it's affected, right? It says, Yahuwah Elohim said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. So it doesn't say that the other cattle and the other beasts are not being cursed. It just says that this serpent is going to be cursed above all the other cattle and above all the other beasts. It's going to be cursed even more than how they're going to be cursed. It says, upon your belly you shall go, and the dust shall you eat all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. It shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Now, unto the woman, he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow in conception, and in sorrow shall you bring forth children. Your desire shall be to your husband, and he shall rule over you. And Adam said, and to Adam he said, so now he's going to the man, because you have hearkened unto the voice of your wife, and eaten of the tree, which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for your sake, the earth. And in sorrow shall you eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face shall you eat of bread. That means that it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to bear food from this. It says, till you return to the ground, out of it was you taken, for dust you are, and dust you shall return. So, what just occurred? Yah approached the serpent, cursed the serpent and the cattle, all the animals. Yah approached the woman, cursed the woman's body, where the nature of a woman's body is now different, just like the nature of the animals are now different. Then he goes to Adam, and he curses the ground. And the whole earth is now producing thorns, thistles. The ground is hard to even bear fruit. So the nature of the whole earth is being affected by sin. The nature of man and woman's body, talking about conception, that means that every child born is going to have a different effect. It's going to be different than the way that Adam was born. Adam was born as a son of Elohim in the likeness and image of Yah. And now that the woman was cursed, and in conception there's going to be pain and sorrow, now everything born out of it is going to have and possess this attribute, this fallen or corrupted or cursed nature. So the whole earth, let's look at another verse. Let's go to Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 24. Look at what it says in verse 4 and 5. It says, the earth mourns and fades away. The world languishes and fades away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. Now look at verse 5. The earth is also defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they transgressed the laws, changed the ordinances, and broken the everlasting covenant. Verse 6. Therefore have the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell in it are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. The curse is devouring everything. Man, woman, beast, plant, earth, everything is affected because of sin. And this is the first elements of creation. So now everything that's produced after it is going to have the effects or the consequences of what happened here, what we just read about. This is a big problem. This is a big problem. Let's see the result. Let's see a little bit more about the results of what happened. So after a few generations passed, look at how mankind turned out. Genesis chapter 6. It says, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, the daughters were born unto them. that the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, took them wives of all that they chose. And what did that result in? Let's look at it. Yahuwah said, my spirit will not always strive with men, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be numbered 120. Why is he giving them 120 years? Well, let's look at it. Verse 5. It says, Elohim saw that the wickedness of men was great on the earth. Every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Everything they thought, everything they did, everything they desired to do, all evil continuously. So it made Yahuwah sorrowful that he made man on the earth. It grieved his heart. And Yahuwah said, I will destroy man whom I have created from off the face of the earth, both man, beast, creeping thing, fowl of the air, for it has made me sorrowful that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of Yah. So the whole purpose of the flood was not because people just disobeyed him and he's like, okay, you disobey me, you did this to me, I'm gonna do this back to you. That's not how his mindset is. Is that the defilement of humanity, of their crookedness, the wicked thoughts and actions was being perpetuated so much that it was consuming the nature of man, that nature itself was being consumed by this pollution, by this corruption. And it wasn't in Yah's, Yah did not send his son yet. He promised the seed in Genesis 3:15 to crush the head of the serpent. He had not sent his son yet. So he had to preserve life in order to bring this plan of deliverance, deliverance from the bad news, deliverance from this sinful nature. He had to promote the prophecy that he stated in Genesis 3:15, saying that a seed will come and that there'll be enmity between the serpent seed and his seed and the woman's seed, and then that seed will crush the head of the serpent. So did that seed come yet? No, the seed didn't come yet. So, but mankind was being polluted so much that everything they thought about was evil. Everything they thought about was evil. So, because of this recognition, because of this acknowledgement, this is why we look for a way out. We say, so what can be done for us? What can happen for us that can take us out of this state? This is why many times in scripture it says, what can we do to be saved? Like they would ask that question because they recognize how horrible this situation actually is. So we have to also meditate and acknowledge how bad this situation actually is. Why? Because the more that we think that it's not that bad, the more that we think that it is, where we lighten the how abominable sin is to Yah, how contrary sin is to our walk with Yah in life. If we don't acknowledge that, then we're going to be fooled by it. We're going to be deceived that it's pleasurable, that the pleasure is worth it, that receiving pleasure is worth it. There's songs, foolish songs about rather having this pleasure is not good, I don't want whatever's good. It's just foolish mindsets being perpetuated in movies and songs and all these different things. So what has occurred? What's the principle of transformation, right? Yah made man in his image, and then all of a sudden the nature of everything, if you go through the line in Genesis chapter 1, everything that he created is good. He created day 1 was good, 2, 3, 4, 5, the plants, the earth, everything was good. And now we're seeing everything being cursed. Everything is now cursed. So the transformation, the conformity, everything is now being conformed. Conforming that one thing is being fashioned like another. Transformed is being a total renewal. It's something totally brand new. So what is this conformity? What are we conforming into? Well, Adam and Eve listened to the serpent. They accepted and they received the serpent's words, and in turn, they received the serpent's thoughts. When they received the serpent's thoughts, they no longer reflected the image and likeness of his son, and they now became children of disobedience. So what does Messiah refer to as children of, what does he call those who are children of disobedience? Let's go to John chapter 8. John chapter 8. Let's look at verse 40. So when we start at verse 39, we have a group of people saying, Abraham is our father, right? YAHUSHUA said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. Likewise, Adam being the child, the son of Elohim, he should have been doing the works of Elohim, right? So if Abraham is your children, you should be doing the works of Abraham, but you're looking to kill me, a man that has told you the truth, which I have heard of Elohim. This Abraham did not do. But then he says in verse 41, you do the deeds of your father. Look what they try to say. We be not of fornication, we have one father, Elohim. All right? Abraham is our father, Elohim is our father. So he's like, if Elohim was your father, you would love me. I proceeded forth and came from Elohim. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me. Look at what he says. Why do you not understand my speech? Because you cannot receive my word. You are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and he abode not in the truth. And because there is no truth in him, when he speaks a lie, he speaks of his own, because he is a liar and the father of it. And because I tell you the truth, you do not believe. So what did he call them? You are of your father the devil. Why? Because they're doing the works of the devil. They have submitted themselves. They have submitted themselves to serve the devil and follow his ways. This is what sin, this is how we become captive. We become captive to sin by practicing disobedience, especially when we acknowledge the truth already. There's a principle in Romans chapter 6 that talks about Romans 6:16, I believe. It says, do you not know that to whom you yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants you are to whom you obey, whether sin unto death or of obedience unto righteousness? Whoever you submit to, you become slave to that thing. You become connected to that thing. And this is what has happened in the very beginning to our very early forefathers and foremother. And they have submitted themselves to the thinking and acting and living of the enemy. And now sin and a curse has come upon all the face of the earth. So woman's womb was affected by it. And what does that mean? Romans 5, verse 12. This is wherefore by one man sin entered into the world. What does that mean, sin entered into the world? It says, and death by sin. So death passed upon all men because all have sinned. So all have sinned. Why? Because the one man passed sin into the world. And so death has passed on to us, sin has passed on to us, sickness, all these different things have passed on to us because our nature is sinful, and our first understanding of life is to focus on self and to fulfill and gratify self and to basically, satisfy the flesh. When we acknowledge that, then we start recognizing that there's a problem. And then we start saying, we're not perfect and things like that. And then there's a deception that we should be satisfied with the problem. There's nothing in this world that we get satisfied of the problem, where we're taught to be satisfied of the problem. There's carpenters, there's electricians, there's all these different jobs that's here to solve problems because they understood, the world understands that it's not good to accept the problem, that we need to search for a solution. But when it comes to the sinful problem, the nature problem, the problem that was established by our forefathers and foremothers, we're human. We can't really go against nature, right? But that's why it's so bad. It's such a horrible understanding, because you can't go against nature. Nature, you're not allowed to go against nature. So what does that mean? That means that we need to talk to the one that made nature. We have to talk to see if there can be something that can recreate nature or redo the nature, the natural consequence, right? Let's continue to look, right? There's an acknowledgement. Once we acknowledge it, it's being revealed to us. Once we acknowledge it, then we can receive a solution. But if we don't know that there's bad news, look at the Jews. When Messiah was talking to the Jews, what did they do? They said that Elohim was their father. They said Abraham was their father. What did they do? They didn't acknowledge the bad news. And what did Messiah say? He says, "You're of your father, the devil." Bad news. Here's the bad news. You're most likely related to Abraham. And Yah definitely intended for you to be the lights in this world. But here's the bad news. The devil is your father. And you're doing the works of the devil. Is that all for us? Is that the end for us? No, absolutely not. Let's look at Psalms 51. Psalms 51. Did David feel that hopelessness? Let's start from verse 1. Have mercy upon me, O Elohim, according to your loving kindness, according unto the multitude of your tender mercies, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity, cleanse me from my sin. So there's an acknowledgement. You're the only one that can do this. Let's continue. For I acknowledge my transgressions. My sin is ever before me. Now look at what it says in verse 4. Against you and you only have I sinned and done this evil in your sight, that you might be justified when you speak and be clear when you judge. Behold, I was fashioned in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. He understands his problem. He acknowledges his problem. He also acknowledges where he needs to go. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity. Look at what he says here. He knows that Yah desires something very important. It says, you desire truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part you shall make me to know wisdom. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which you have broken may rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all my iniquities. Here we go, verse 10. Create Create what? Create in me a clean heart, O Elohim, and renew a right spirit within me. Create in me. So there's this acknowledgement of what's in us and that we need something else. We need something to be done. We need to be renewed and recreated. Recreated. We are born in sin because of the actions of those before us. So he acknowledges this. Let's see. What about Paul? Let's go to Romans chapter 7. Look at what it says here. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. I am carnal, sold under sin. What else? Let's go to Romans chapter 8. I'm purposely not reading the other verses because I want to kind of build up the understanding that we see perpetuated in Scripture of recognizing the bad news about ourselves. Romans chapter 8 tells us in verse 7 and 8. It says, because the carnal mind is enmity against Elohim. Remember what he said about enmity in Genesis. He says, I will put enmity between the woman's seed and the serpent's seed. That means that they're not going to be, there's nothing that connects them. There's a contrast. There's no possible way of harmony, right? So the carnal mind is in complete disconnection from Elohim. There's no chance of harmony of the carnal mind and Elohim. It says, for it is not subject to the law of Elohim. Neither indeed can be. It's not capable of being submitted to Yah's law, to his instruction. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please God. So that tosses that tosses the whole idea out the window of we're only human. You can't get mad at me. How can God get mad at us? He created us this way. Did he? Did he create you that way, or were you born that way? He created man, but man put the nature in you. Just like how man can put the thoughts in you. Just like how man can convince you of acting those thoughts out. Just like how the enemy can do that for us. So how is Yah trying to get us back? Yah is trying to get us back by winning first, getting back the mind first. That is the first thing he's trying to do. Other than that, we're born in captivity. We're born stuck in this way. Look at what it says about your heart, your and my heart. It says that the mind or the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Deceitful above all things. Very, very interesting because this is important. Above all things. So what does it mean? We lose sight of the word deceitful because we use it so much. We read it so much. Deceived, deceitful. Look at what it means. 6121. H6121. It means fraudulent. It means polluted. It means crooked. Let's use these two, polluted and crooked. Let's use those two in the definition. The heart of the mind is crooked and polluted above all things. And then it says, and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Desperately wicked. Let's take a look at that. H605. Frail, feeble, sick. Look what it says here. Incurable. Let's put that in there. The mind or the heart is crooked and polluted above all things and incurable and weak and frail. Who can know it? It says in verse 10, I, Yahuwah, search the heart. I try the reins, and to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. He is able to recognize what's inside of us. He can actually try or test or fix what's inside of us. This is why he can judge us, and we can't judge ourselves, because he can go into the depths of your mind and your heart. He knows what he can do. He knows the ability that he has in helping us in this situation, in this problem that we have. Paul understood this problem from Scripture, Romans chapter 7. Let's look at this, verse 23 and 24. It says, I see another law in my body. I see another law in my body, warring against the law that I acknowledge in my mind. Now, the law in his mind doesn't mean that the law was written in his mind. Remember, earlier in Romans 7, when you guys go back and read the whole chapter, you'll see that he's talking about at one point in time when he didn't know what the law said, he was ignorant of sin and he felt like he was free. But when he saw the law and learned what the law said, then he recognized the true polluted state. Let's look at this. Romans 7, right? Verse 9. It says, I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. It says, the commandment which I was ordained to life, the commandment was ordained to life, I found to bring death. How? Sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me. What deceived him? Sin deceived him. And by it slew him. So therefore, the law is holy, the commandment is holy and righteous and good. Look at this question. Just in case anybody asks this question, Paul answers it for you. It says, was then that which is good made death to me? God forbid. Sin, so it can appear sin, worked death in me by that which was good. So when the commandment came, then sin appeared. So when I recognized my sin, I now also recognized how dead and separated I was from Yah. That sin, by the commandment, might become exceedingly sinful. This is the problem that many of us have. Sin is not recognized as bad as it should be recognized. It is not recognized as exceeding sinful. People laugh at sin. People lightly take sin. People would allow sin even in the midst of them because they don't look at it as bad as other sins. When this is actually what's bringing him death. Let's continue to move forward. Romans chapter 6. But look at what we're supposed to understand. Do you not know that as many of us that were immersed into YAHUSHUA was immersed into his death? So we're dead, but then there's something that we need to be immersed into. We need to be immersed into Messiah's death. That's different. We're dead in our sins, right? As Ephesians chapter 2 says. Let's look at the first 5 verses in Ephesians chapter 2. It says, and you have he quickened, who were dead in trespasses and sins, wherein in time past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the ruler and the power of the air. You walked according to the spirit that now works in the children of disobedience. And it says, among whom also we all had our conduct in times past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling, not thinking, not feeling, not desiring, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind. And here's the crazy part. By nature, we were by nature the children of wrath. So by nature, this is what happened to nature. Yah created everything good in nature, and then nature was now altered. and by nature we were the children of wrath. But Elohim, who is rich in mercy, for his great love wherewith he loved us, even when we were dead in sins, hath he made us alive together with Messiah. By grace you are saved. By grace you are saved. So this is very important for us to understand. Is this is a big problem. This is a big problem. This is bad news for humanity all around. If you're born, that's bad news. Unfortunately, this is the cards that are dealt. This is not a matter of something that's being fair, something that's being unfair, all of this stuff. This is just nature. This is nature. It's just like all the different actions that you took in your own life that has a consequence. All the words that you said that has a response, a reaction. Everything is affected by everything else. So why do we think is different when it comes to our reality? Our reality is our forefathers, foremothers sinned, and they passed that sin down. The earth was defiled, the animals were defiled, mankind was defiled. So now we're born defiled. Real simple. But if you don't believe that you're defiled, then what do you need to fix? Or if we're human, mankind is supposed to be this way, then why would you need good news if we're supposed to be this way? You wouldn't need it. You wouldn't accept it. You wouldn't go after it. You'll be comfortable where you are, and that's the problem. That's a problem connected to the problem. Because it's not that you're not acknowledging the problem. You're acknowledging the problem and saying this is how it's supposed to be. This is how Yah made it to be. And Yah did not make it this way. Yah did not make it this way. We made it this way. So this will conclude our first class, our first class of the series. The good news. And the good news is that there's bad news. And then we're going to go on to the rest of the message. All right. So I want to give some time for everybody to kind of meditate on the reality of the bad news. So that way we can actually understand or see the value in the good news that Yah is offering to us. All right. So praise Yah. Hope to see you guys in the next class. Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, shalom. Thank you guys for joining our study today. I hope that it was edifying. And if you want to support this ministry, you can support us on 4alc.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube page. Click the like button and the notification bell. I hope to see you guys on the next study. Shalom, guys.